In the last section of videos I've done is a bunch of tarp camping, and I'll link in the playlist. But the biggest thing I have to be concerned about when I go tarp camping in Tennessee is spiders. The brown occlusive, the wolf spider, different spiders like that. I also have to be concerned about ticks. Now, the magic juice against any of this stuff is called permethrin, as you can see here. I buy this stuff in concentrated. I'll put a link in the bottom. It's not affiliated. I get it from one place, and it's super concentrated. You may be able to get it on Amazon. I'm not sure. Every time I've checked Amazon, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. It's just hit and miss, and it's unpredictable. So I get it from one place. They do ship it really well. They do offer insurance. I suggest you pay insurance in case this breaks. But here's the rundown. I will use permethrin 1 ounce to 1 gallon. And I have one of those pump spray things that you use around the yard. I will hang the clothes I plan to wear out on the line, and I'll spray them down and soak them. I have also used a 5-gallon pail. Now, if I fill that pail half full, that's about 2.5 gallons, so I'll use about 3 ounces. I don't mind if I use extra. It's up to you. Now, I used AI to do the conversion for me. This is approximately a 16-ounce bottle. And how much permethrin do I put in this compared to a 1 gallon? And I'll have a link to this spray bottle. This spray bottle is heavy duty. I wanted something heavy duty. I wanted it to lock where it don't spray, you see. And this sits in this. I got a rubber thing on the side of my pack that I shoved this in. Okay. Now, what AI says is 1 ounce treats 1 gallon, which is 128 ounces. So, if we do the math, which is 16.9 ounces, which is this, by 128, it comes out to 0.32 ounces. But it still doesn't tell us much. So literally, we want to know how many teaspoons to put in here. And basically, it's about 0.8 teaspoons. So I just put 1 teaspoon in here. That's it. And then I add water. And now I'm ready to go. So I'll use 1 ounce per 1 gallon. And then I will soak my pants, my jackets, my hats, my gloves. Anything I'm going to wear, I'll soak it down. And then I'll let it dry. You don't want to wring it out. You don't want to put it in the dryer. You just want to soak it and let it dry. Usually good for about 3 months. So once I have that taken care of, now my tarp is waterproof. So I can't soak my tarp down. Nothing is going to absorb into my tarp. It's waterproof, which kind of sucks. But what I do instead is I take this. Now this, I spray on my dog's legs before I go in, on his belly. I just rub it on with my hand. And sometimes I'll spray it around from my knees down. Even though my pants are treated, I'll just give myself an extra dose before I go in. Now, when I get in and I get my tarp set up the way I want, then I actually turn around and spray inside the tarp. So all over the ground. Then around the tarp, maybe a foot away from the tarp all the way around. So now I've created a protective barrier around my tarp, and I've created inside the tarp. Now while that's drying, because this stuff does dry fairly quickly, I'll set up my chair and I'll set up my other stuff, and by then it should be done. I take out my tie vac, which I'll lay down, which is my ground sheet, inside the tarp. Everything else goes in the tarp. So now I don't have to worry about sleeping and being attacked by a wolf spider or a brown occlusive. Now, wolf spiders are the least of my concerns. I've been bitten by them quite a few times in my life. Excuse me. And they're just annoying. But they're stupid. And that's the problem. You see, to a wolf spider, he doesn't understand size. He really doesn't. He attacks anything. You could be walking with your boot, and you'll see a wolf spider just run straight at you and try to nail you by the boot. as if he thinks he's grabbed something. Sometimes I think they're half blind. But a brown occlusive is a different story. You know, you take, for example, I've heard of stories where brown occlusives have gone into a tarp, climbed up inside the sleeping bag, and are kind of relaxing there because it's nice and warm, right? It ain't cold, especially if it's cold outside. You roll over, and that brown occlusive bites you in the back of the leg or in the back, and now we got trouble. It's not going to happen right away, but if that does happen, I would suggest you pack up and get home right now. If you know it's a brown occlusive that bit you. It's going to take time for the poison to fester and get into you, and you may need some type of small surgery to cut away the dead skin where the brown occlusive bit you. It's nothing to mess around with. You don't want to continue if you don't have to, if you can get out and keep an eye on it, because it can fester into something really bad. Now, ticks also die from this. I've had ticks climb up my legs while I've watched them, and they just fall off. This works on their nervous system, is what it does. And it happens fairly quickly. So when you're actually applying permethrin, you're not just, you're not just using it on your clothes. I use this stuff on my fruit trees. I use it around my yard. Now, it's not good for cats when it's wet, but when it's dry, it's fine. Okay? With my dogs, I don't know. I've never had any issues. I've had people in my comment sections when I've told people about this over and over. They'll say, oh my God, you're putting poison on myself. Oh my God, you're putting poison on your dogs. Look, I'm 60 years old. I've been using this stuff for over 30 years. I've never had any reactions to it whatsoever. And if it means, because you get bit by certain ticks, they'll take you out. And they'll just mess you up for years. I've seen people get messed up for 10 years from a certain type of tick bite. I don't mess with these insects whatsoever. And I don't care if it's fall, winter, summer. Tennessee has unpredictable weather, especially when we get into the wintertime. And we'll rain a lot, but we'll get warm during the day, 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 50. And then nighttime we'll get down to 40. But not very often we're below zero, which is 32. And we'll get a couple of weeks of super cold weather where the ticks will probably climb into the ground and disappear. But you have to understand, these insects don't like to be cold any more than we do. So if you've got a tarp set up and you're laying inside your sleeping bag, that sleeping bag is cozy warm. They're very well going to climb in there and say hello to you, is what they're going to do. And they don't know you're going to roll over on top of them. They don't know these things are going to happen. So it's important, this is heavy. This is not light. But between dealing with a brown occlusive bite or a tick bite, a wolf spider's not a big deal, but this stuff kills all spiders, not just brown occlusive. It kills all ticks, is what it does. Now, it doesn't really kill mosquitoes if it's summertime. It helps a little bit. There's other stuff I use for mosquitoes, but this is the main thing I use for everything. My dog's never had ticks. I've never had ticks. I think one time I had one underneath my armpit, but I am very, very vigilant on how I deal with them with this permethrin. Very vigilant. So if you want to pick up this brown bottle and put 1 teaspoon in it and then add your water, you're good to go. If you're doing it in a gallon sprayer, 1 ounce. If you fill up a pail half full, 5-gallon pail, just use 3 ounces. Now, the reason you use a 5-gallon pail, sometimes people just prefer to shove their shirts in there, leave it in there for 10 minutes, let it absorb, get soaking wet, and you don't wring them out. You just kind of, I do wring them out a little bit. I'll pull it out of the pail and I'll wring it lightly just to pull most of the water out, and it drains back into the pail, and then I hang it on the line. And then I add more stuff, that I'm trying to protect against it, is what I do. My pack has been sprayed down, and then I added waterproofing to it, and then it was sprayed down again. I'm just very, very crazy about making sure everything gets a dose. And you'll notice this bottle's almost gone, and I've got a full bottle sitting here ready to go. I usually have 3 bottles sitting on the shelf and waiting for what I need. It's not super expensive. It does cost money. But like I said, this is not an affiliate link. The wilderness is beautiful. It's wonderful to go backpacking. It's wonderful to go camping. But it only takes one situation to really mess you up. Now, if you get bit by a bronchoclusive and it festers, I mean, not only is it going to wreck your trip, but it may put you out of work for a week. And that's something you don't want since you got to pay the bills and the way groceries are anymore. So I would suggest you pick this up. Again, I put 1 teaspoon in here. You can run 2 teaspoons if you feel a little bit stronger. 1 ounce to a gallon jug, and to a 5-gallon pail, half full water, add 3 ounces. It doesn't matter if you go a little bit over. Okay, you can make it stronger, but you can't make it weaker, is what you can do. Like it says 1 teaspoon when I figured it out with AI, I add 2 teaspoons. You know, I made it a little bit stronger. And like I said, I take this and spray it inside where I'm going to sleep, inside my tarp, and around my tarp. So this way I know I'm spider protected everywhere. Anyhow, catch you guys on the next one.